Greetings. I wanted to read, see some in Matthew. It's actually chapter 13. I came across this and it was just significant to me. Messiah's words here in Matthew 13:52. And I'm going to read from a couple different translations because it's one area here where a couple words are used differently depending, but I don't see either one of them being wrong. It's just the truth and nature of any given word is that there's not one literal fixed word for any given word. It's just so much bigger language words than one word meaning one English word or a different language word, and then that's it. And this is in verse 52. Well, right above that, Messiah giving a parable about the fish, the good fish and the bad fish. After he said to them, "Have you understood all these things?" After he said this to them, "Have you understood all these things?" After giving parables and teachings, they said to him, "Yes, Master." Well, I mean, that wasn't the truth, and that's to be discerned, which makes it sound bad, oh no. That's who man is. That's who everyone is, though. They say they understand when they don't. There's no way that the disciples understood at this time what Messiah was truly saying for meaning, but it would come later. And after, then we read, "Then he said to them, therefore every scribe instructed concerning or for the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out of his treasure things new and old." I looked up the word scribe and instructed, but I want to read from a different translation. It just sort of brings it out a little bit because we're reading a couple different words. Therefore, in NIV, he said to them, "Therefore every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old." So in the New King James, we read scribe and instructed. But, looking up this word, let me go to the Strong's. Looking up scribe, there's a footnote for the King James on my app. Let me see what it says. A scholar in Old Testament law. And this word's used quite a few times in the New Testament, 67 times. It's pretty clear what a scribe is: a teacher, instructor out of the law, specifically out of, the law of Moses, the Creator's laws. Office influence, learned in the Mosaic law, in the writings. Scribe, a writer, professionally scribe, town clerk, and it's used many times. And then the word instructed is used only 5 times, but translated as disciple, instructed, taught, teach. To be a disciple of one, to follow his precepts and instructions, to make a disciple, to teach, to instruct. Disciple, that is enroll, as scholar, be disciple, instruct, teach. Therefore, so then we read in other translations, we'll see the word law, which makes sense. Neither thing is wrong. But here we have scribe. Therefore, every scribe instructed, so, teaching out of the law. That's what scribe is connected to, and instructed, that word is Instructed, like teaching, discipleship. Every scribe instructed concerning the kingdom of heaven is like a household holder who brings out his treasure, things new and old. Read in the NIV. Let me go to something else. Maybe what is popular also? The NASB. Where is it now? See what it says. Uses scribe. Therefore, every scribe who has become a disciple of the kingdom of heaven, disciple instead of instructed, but still using scribe. Therefore, every scribe who has become a disciple of the kingdom of heaven is like a head of a householder who brings out his treasure, things new and old. This is pretty amazing because of what religion in the church world is. It's like a mockery, like the law and kingdom of heaven as one. What's going on here? I could just imagine the turmoil inside the worldly churches and temples. What is Messiah clearly speaking of? The kingdom of heaven, which is to be separated and rightly divided completely as an understanding from under the law of Moses. We read until John the Baptist was until like the law, but from that point forward now, the kingdom of heaven, something greater has come. So we have like the law under the law of Moses and what it means versus the kingdom of heaven, something new. And we're reading about instructors out of the law who become a disciple of the kingdom of heaven. And that's why Messiah taught elsewhere. We read, maybe I'll go find it. Let me search it out. Let's see, what are the words? He did not come to destroy the law. Try to find it. I don't know where it is right now. But we read that he didn't come, don't think that he came to destroy the law and the prophets, but to fulfill. Then we have to get the understanding of what on earth has become new and changed and changing in us. That is the growing and learning these real things. And yet not doing away with the commandments, but sort of making it sound like in different places where we read that like it all went away and disappeared. Then there's nothing to even write in the heart. What is the Father writing in the heart of his people? The law, like prophecy, like his word says, to write the law in their hearts. There has to be commandments in a law, but writing in the heart, though, and not on stone, as of old. Son of Man did not come this far. I guess I'm not finding where it is right now. Messiah came to give life, to have it abundantly. John 10:10. The thief only comes to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. So whoever teaches to break these things, even small, will be called least in the kingdom. I could maybe find that one. Matthew 5:19. Might as well read that. Whoever For surely I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle will by no means pass from the law till all is fulfilled. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments, the least, and teaches men so, to break the least of them, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. And every time we read kingdom of heaven, it is not the old carnal way under the law and what that means. Messiah is teaching the kingdom of heaven. This is for us, for believers in Messiah today. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. The righteousness has to exceed. And those that don't believe are not righteous. They don't have righteousness of themselves. This is through faith and belief, which will lead to doing good works and learning and growing in Messiah to do what he says, his commandments. Whoever says they love him, if you love me, keep the commandments. He's saying, keep his word, keep the Father's commandments, we read also. Live by every word, not by bread alone, but by every word, he quotes from Scripture. So then this is bringing out that teaching to break even the least of things. And what this means is called least in the kingdom. But unless the righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees, scribes, by no means even enter. And that brings out a contrast, the importance of not breaking and teaching to break the commandments, but these things have to be given to what the commandments are, what they mean, how to live them, to rightly divide his word, or else it'll be one mixed up lie in death and confusion. And we read about the kingdom of heaven here too, just as earlier. Instructor, scribe, a disciple for the kingdom of heaven. And I think I had a whole lot more, but I came across there also. I put some scriptures in the description there, and they're pretty big, pretty important. If someone wants to read them, read it carefully. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and give light to all who are in the house. Let your lights shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And he's speaking of those good works, the Father's good works in us, to let the light shine in this way. And it's not pride. But it's going to sound contradicting elsewhere, where Messiah says, be careful not to show your works, your charitable deeds before men. This is to do things with the mind and heart, with intention. You do something, whatever it is, to be seen by others. It's why you do it. That's what he's saying there. So that they can be seen as good people, righteous. You sing, worship, and pray before all men and potentially the whole world. As they're, it's okay. It's willing to do that for the whole world, seeing it on the internet, making its prayers out loud and doing all these things in the open out loud like that. And then speaking about all the good and charity and literal giving that it does, because it desperately needs to show how righteous they are, because there's none in them, and it's darkness. Desperately needs to show that, to hide and cover the real darkness inside, and breaking all those things for real in the heart. by creating the image that it keeps them, and then shows off and tells people about it. But reading here about let your light so shine is something different. He's not speaking of that here, rightly dividing. When a light shines, it's meant to be seen, to light the way. And this is good. This is just doing the Father's will. The good works working in us is the light shining, and it's to be seen by others. And this is not pride. This has nothing to do with pride, although anything could be done with pride, but this truth is not pride, and there's a way to do it and keep it without pride, as the Father has to show us how and give how to do this and rightly divide between doing things to be seen, works to be seen with that intention, and usually going to be something carnal, because carnal things are to be seen literally with physical eyes as a good person. But this is not speaking here of carnal things, but spiritual. The good works of the heart are not seen with the physical eye, and so in this way they're seeing the light shining. Messiah was the first light in the world in this way, like no other before. And we're supposed to be lights, just as he was and is in this world. And when you look up at the sky, there's the moon and stars. When you could see both, they shine at night. There's no contrast in the daylight. The light's not needed when the greatest light is out. Because those stars and moon are lights, it blends right in with the light. It's not supposed to be seen when it's daylight. But when it's dark, they're supposed to be seen and shining. And in a dark world, that always is and has been up until this day, from the beginning, from the curse, his people are seen as lights shining in the heavens. They're from above, the heavenly peoples that believe in Messiah to do and keep his commandments, his word. And they're supposed to be seen, and that's not pride by itself. When we're doing this right, then it's not pride, because they're supposed to be seen at night, shining. And lights, like what just came to mind, was the wise men. They followed the star. I think it was one, but if it was more than one, I'm not sure 100% right now. I think it was one star. It doesn't matter. The point is, everything that's true matters, but concerning what I'm about to say, it doesn't matter. It has no effect or doesn't change anything spiritually. Is that star guided them to where they needed to go. And that's what lights of this world is, to be seen, and guide others in darkness, because they have no light. They can't do anything. They're lost. They need to believe and become lights themselves, but until that point and until they become a bigger light, you follow a guide, the star, guiding you to the Creator, to Messiah. And then, whatever the Father gives, at some point being able to give that back as he sees fit, as someone is given. And no one can do truly more than what's given. You can't do what hasn't been taught, understood. Can't do the works of what hasn't been learned yet. The more someone grows, the more is given. To him who has, more will be given. So he has an abundance, but him who has little, even that little is taken away, so he ends up having nothing. Bearing the talent that's given that needs to be multiplied. And then you come back with multiplying the good works. It started with a little, and it multiplied and became more. Give to him who has 10 or 5, whoever has the most. And then we see the disapproval and hatred towards that Messiah teaching. How could you give to the one that has? Wouldn't you give it to the one that has least and needs it more? And the one that doesn't do anything with it, it's taken from them to give to those who have. Because they will do something with it. And how the carnal mind works is perfectly backward spiritually in all things to the Creator and his way and who he is. Becomes envious then. Nothing makes sense. It's literally backwards, their heart. Literally backwards. Man needs to change and repent and receive correction and chastisement to change his ways, not the Creator. But man judges his word as if it's God and knows already all things, and then judges it based off its own delusion and lack of understanding and darkness. They attack and judge his word in this way, sitting as kings in their own throne room, determining what should be there, what shouldn't be there. This is wrong, this is right here, this is wrong over here. And they just judge his word for evil. And that's all they do. Not producing any good fruit, but just attacking truth and judging his word all day long. Because it's offended at not understanding anything and has no confidence in anything. That only can come from above. And they don't ask in their heart. And those that don't have, they truly are not doing that. They're not asking in the heart. They don't want anything to do with the Father. But they do have something to do with the God they created, the Elohim golden calf they created. Just as the many called of Israel created. And Aaron was getting deceived. I started saying that recently about if it were possible, even the elect to be deceived, if it were possible. And then I never made the connection with Aaron. I just never went back and just kept going, didn't come back to it. But, Aaron's the Moses and Aaron's the priest, and he does what the people want him to. The people want to sin. They ask him to sin. It's got to be seen how powerful this is. People are asking their leaders to sin and allow it, and they do. But isn't Aaron supposed to be one of the righteous, counted for, believer? And look what he did. See, even if it were possible, the elect to be deceived, and the people want him to sin and allow it and constantly want this from you. It's a constant war like this for us, for believers. The more we see that this is true. People will just already want you to sin. They'll never acknowledge it. They're going to say, we want good for you. We want to worship God. We want to build God. This is good. We want to do what's right. He got us out of Egypt from sin and death, bondage, from darkness of Egypt, sin, death, slave to self. Our golden calf we built saved us. People think this isn't happening today to the many. They deceive themselves or need to see this further and see it and learn it. It's happening. It's constantly happening. What we read for the many is happening to the many in this world. They will say, because his word teaches that they will say that they're saved. This God, Elohim, got us out of Egypt. That's what we read. And Egypt is darkness, representing bondage and sin and slavery to it, to this world of darkness. And now the God they built got them out of Egypt, not the Creator, but the God they built. And these are the many called that perish all along the way and don't make it to the promised land. They're dying, and they don't make it, and they die. And not making it to the promised land is a teaching and understanding for us that the many don't. They want to follow a carnal leader. Today, to be a Moses today is sin, to follow someone like Moses and what he is, the carnal man. because no one was as Messiah before Messiah. So to be literally of Moses like that back then, today, is the people wanting to follow their God and ruler that tells them and commands them things. And this is death. Moses doesn't lead them to the promised land for real, but only under Joshua as a child, the small young kids, the generation after. Under Messiah, Joshua, representing, pointing to Messiah, leads us to the promised land. Messiah in heaven, teaching the heart and not commanding carnally with letters that kill, because that way kills. But he teaches us how to keep his commandments from heaven, teaching our heart in spirit and in truth, and not as Moses did, which was revealing the carnal way in religion and everything, doing that literal thing and understanding what man's mind is without his spirit. It's a carnal man only, outward only, looking good outwardly, no change within. But now we have to be under Messiah, which is what Joshua is representing, which he has the name of Messiah, and it's pretty clear that that's true, that his name is the same name as Messiah, but the Hebrew name, not Joshua, the transliteration. But even the King James, the old King James, says that if Jesus gave us rest, saying Jesus didn't give them the true rest. But that scripture in Hebrews, I think, is, other translations will put Joshua because it's referring to Joshua in scripture, but because it's the same name, the transliteration of, Jesus into Jesus, Messiah's name being the same as Joshua, that's why it says Jesus in there, that Jesus doesn't get them to the true rest, but not speaking of Messiah, but Joshua, Yehoshua, the Hebrew name, just as we read. The name that when it's looked up means Jehovah is salvation. The transliteration, Joshua, when it's looked up, that's the name that means Jehovah is salvation. And they made an abomination out of everything. They made it complicated when it's incredibly simple. They make it sound like nobody can know forever. And after I started not believing that anymore and seeking more truth on it, seeing some error also in what I did, because believing anything blindly is sin. You just believe and trust in some man or group is sin, because we're not supposed to put our trust in man or friends or anyone with the heart like that. Only the Creator through Messiah. I think one of the verses I have in the description is saying not to put the trust in friends and man, but the enemy is that of our own households. Messiah quotes from scripture, is teaching that as truth. What this also teaches is when Messiah is teaching out of his word as truth at the present time, it's no different today. That's also teaching that his word applies and is true today, because it was true when Messiah said those words that were written long ago, and he was applying it to the present time today. So it's for us today. Scripture, every word is truth. Messiah said, your word is truth. What word? All of it. Your word is truth. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Father. Messiah quoted that from scripture, teaching it as being true at the present time and continually after that. It's true today because it was true when Messiah quoted those words of long ago before. At the present time, it was true. So his word is always true today, all of it. Without getting understanding from him, though, it's hopeless. without being able to see anything for what it means for our heart and rightly divide his word, just like food is divided, peas from corn and potatoes separated, and naming each one of them and not mixing it and saying it's peas when it's actually a mixed thing. Mixing the carrots with the potatoes and saying this is carrots or this is potatoes is a lie. That's the devil's work, mixing good and evil on the knowledge of the tree of good and not seeing what good is. And it just sees the mixed thing, evil. It cannot discern between good and evil on the tree. It's one mixed thing. That is all sin. That is the knowledge that the world lusts for. It lusts for carnal serpent, worldly knowledge that doesn't come from above. And it's a lie, and it's mixed like that. That is the enemy's works, mixed. All things mixed is the lie. If it's mixed, it's a lie. Anything that's mixed is a lie. And it's amazing, the strong blinding. It's amazing on the simplest things that mankind is utterly blind to and has created and made it complicated, because sin is foolishness and lies are complicated. It takes the lie and treats it and makes it look like, sells it as wisdom. It does that with the Father's name. It's all divided. And there's people out there that make it look so incredibly complex and confusing and cannot trust or do anything. Nobody can know. You can't trust this. You can't trust that. Not that we trust letters alone, but trusting the Creator. And then he shows us what something means. But his word is true. In this way, we can trust that it's true. But that's what they teach the opposite. They put it in people's hearts that you can't know or see anything. And they make it sound like you need a PhD and a doctor's degree for like 10 years to be able to understand the Father's name and Messiah's name. You don't have to even learn any language to know a name, one word. How long does it take to study one word? Even if you don't know the language. So anything but the truth, isn't it? Anything but the truth. Anything but what we plainly read in Scripture. That just can't be believed by this world, the most of it. The mixed thing. Mix the Aramaic, Hebrew, mix root words and create your own mutation is what's happening. And then, Yeshua is common. And just so many people will say Jesus is Yeshua. That's Joshua, which is Jesus, or Jesus, Joshua, Yeshua. When that's not what we read. We read plainly what it is and its pronunciation. Just ignoring a whole entire letter and its sound. It's amazing. Can't get the name. Are they seeking truth in this world? Are all the people that are divided about it, are they seeking the Creator with their heart on truth and what everything is? They're not, because the Father's not divided. Messiah's not actually divided. The Father's not doing that work and giving division, and true believers everywhere are just forever divided about everything. They're in sin. Only the devil's kingdoms are divided, and against its own self, it condemns itself all the time in hypocrisy. For whatever it accuses, it does. Therefore, it condemns itself when it points the finger. You do this. It's basically saying, I do this. I'm evil. But it's only a one-way street. That's who the carnal man is. That's who evil, that's what darkness is. Messiah says, do not think I came to destroy the law or prophets. So what do they say? He came to destroy it. The devil reverses it. Their doctrines teach, whether openly or secretly, that the law has been destroyed. We keep Messiah's commands, not Moses. What a confusing thing. What a trick. If they kept Messiah's commands, they would believe and see to live by every word that proceeds out of the Father's mouth. Do they believe Messiah's commands, of which one of them is to live by every word? which is all his word. So when they try to divide the old from the new and create some kind of image that doesn't exist for a lie, teach it as truth, they just did the abomination and do not believe in Messiah's words, nor do they keep his commands at all. When they do these works continually, it's proven that they don't. They despise the true Messiah just as much as the carnal Jews did back then, because they want self-righteousness. They want it to be out of works. They can only say the words, it's faith, 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 but their heart wants self-righteousness to be the truth. And they believe what they do saves them and makes them good. Even if they say the exact opposite, their heart and their works prove that they don't believe in faith and know what it means, and that someone is justified by faith. And then they attack everything that's good and true, and they nailed the law to the stake, not understanding anything for what it means. They just nailed their heart to the stake in that they're dead. There's nothing to heal when the law's nailed to the stake. There's nothing to learn or write in the heart, and it won't be written in their heart, those that want so badly for it to be nailed on the stake with their own heart. This wasn't just for before commandments. Messiah's teaching on the kingdom of heaven. He's not Moses. All his teachings are for his people and for the kingdom of heaven today. All of it, not going back for something that doesn't apply to people now. In Matthew 5:17, do not think I came to destroy. It's teaching the kingdom of heaven. This is what they'll be called in the kingdom of heaven. They'll be called the least, for whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever does and teaches them shall be called great. And Messiah also taught that whoever is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John, because that's how powerful the new things are. The greatest and the best of the old and under the old covenant, and what it means and is still way lesser than the least of those in the kingdom of heaven, because it's power, it's truth, it's the reality, it's the true light in someone, the heart being changed, which never happened before. Never happened in the heart for real. They masquerade the image of Jesus, the blasphemous image, with a halo and things glowing, like carnality, Moses shining, pointing to that true light. But if it has to show it's a light, it's pride when it has to do that literally and show how righteous it is. It's hiding that it's wicked, because if it was righteous, if it did have the Father's righteousness, they wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be doing things to show how good they are and create a video that's, however long, of them praising the Creator and doing all these things that Messiah taught not to do, and they do them right before everyone's eyes. And everything they teach these blind leaders of the blind, the carnal Jews under the law, they just speak of themselves daily. It's frightening. You can't get through to them. More comments just wiped out and deleted. Answering things, giving, sharing, and they just wipe it out like a bowl. And then it says, this is how we should act. It makes the next video, this is how we should act. And the person just murdered and deleted and wiped everything out that's good and true. Doesn't even let it stand for others to read or see. Then it says you need to do this and prove and test all, and then it just deletes you. It's not proving and testing all things. It's a liar, a deceiver. They're all deceivers that do this work. What are they afraid of? They're biased and partial, aren't they? They're cowards. They're afraid. That's why someone would do that. It's unreal, and they're everywhere. This is just the works of man's heart. He's a deceiver in destruction. He can't hear the simplest of things. We try to give truth to the simplest of things in hopes that someone sees a little bit of light which would lead more to more light through repentance and belief. But if they can't see the simplest and least of things, they will not see anything greater at the same time. If it's rejecting the simplest of things, if you try to give something that's greater than that at the same time, they will reject that also, hardcore, because it can't accept the simple things. It can't accept that it's in delusion. In Sabbath night, Black Sabbath, it's unreal. How does someone believe that, even though that's a lesser thing, the literal thing, but you try to get a little bit of truth to someone on something simple, and when they reject it, it shows how deceived and dark the heart is. It's not even about that thing anymore so much. Literal Sabbath night, when you see the hearts rejecting it violently, that's a judgment and delusion they're in. They're in a lot of sin that could be discerned from rejecting something so simple and not wanting to even look at it. Not even wanting to look at it. Zero. It doesn't even want to look at it without partiality. It can't. And if someone can't hear the words that Sabbath day means it's in the day, and they just cannot hear the simplest of things, how will they hear anything greater? Real things, heavenly things, spiritual things. They can't hear the earthly thing that they're in delusion to. How will they hear heavenly delusion that they're in? How? How does someone say Sabbath day is Sabbath night? It blows my mind. Good reason to fear the Creator, because when we read delusion, it means delusion that the Father sends. It's not a joke. It's severe judgment for severe sin. And no one should think that people aren't in severe sin that are in a strong delusion. It requires strong sin to be in that much of a delusion. They are doing lots of evil. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can be that delusional and not be in serious sin. Not even possible. Continually. And then the heart is discerned that it has nothing to do with truth and doesn't want to hear. Then you have to just let it be and not murder them and understand why they don't believe and see, because they don't have eyes and ears and it's just not given. And we say, forgive them, they know not what they do, and you move on with the heart being able to do this, not with the mouth, with the heart. Anybody can do that with the mouth, and if it's not true, that was a sin, an abomination, because if it wasn't real, then the only reason someone said the words of love your enemies is only to look good, and they don't understand or believe what it means and never do it. If they didn't do what's real, then the reason why they said it is for corrupt, wicked intentions, and that's it. If someone didn't do what that means and they didn't say it out of doing it and seeing and believing it for real, then they just said it to look good, to hide and make themselves look true, so that they can't be spotted for their nakedness, their sins. Adam and Eve hiding in the woods to cover their sin with self-righteousness, their own things, their own doctrine, their own delusion. In their own mind, it's theirs. They claim it for themselves. And they have to tell people how deceived they are for believing in the Trinity and not believing Messiah is God, divine, the Godhead that's eternal, the creator of the heavens and earth. These people go out and receive thousands of views, and they tell them how deceived this is, and they're desperately trying to get people to believe them because they don't want to be wrong. They don't care about truth. It only wants to defend the delusion that it has for truth, so-called. They don't care about truth at all. They only want to defend what they already claim and hold on to, because they're in judgment right now. It's already strong on them. Anyone that's doing evil, it's strong on them, the judgment. They're only trying to convince people and self that what it says is right, because it cannot believe it's in delusion and doesn't understand anything. It's the only thing that drives a false prophet and false believers. It moves them to do what they do. And so does the money and hopes for self-gain. These are all the things that move someone secretly, and they never tell you what moves them and what they're doing and why they're doing it. They're so incredibly deceptive and crafty, saying all the words that it needs to say, all the right words, all the same words that we say out of truth, out of hearing and seeing what they mean. And that's why we say it, because we see it and hear it and believe it. They only say the same words when they do to hide who and what they are and blend in like a lizard, to hide their sins they think they can hide. They only say it so that no one can prove them that they're wrong in anything. And they're carnal commanders that command you to do different things and put heavy yokes and burdens on people spiritually with their heart. They do this, and they don't lift up a finger for anything that they command themselves, like Messiah taught. They don't lift up so much as a finger for adultery. They don't lift up a finger for murder. Do not murder, do not commit adultery. They don't lift up a finger for keep the Sabbath day set apart. They don't lift up a finger for don't envy. They don't lift up a finger for don't steal. Don't have other Elohims. Don't have any idols. They don't lift up a finger for honor your father and mother. Do they teach them lies? That's not honoring father and mother. Do they accept lies when it comes by their way? That's not honoring or loving your neighbor. No, you have to do what's right, and if you do what's right, you'll be counted as dung and hated. Now, who will do what's right when there's a little pressure on them, which the Father will send tests continually for everyone, but especially believers? They'll have to do what's right so that they hate you. And you can't do anything so that they hate you. You have to do what's right. And if we do what's right, then the result is the many will hate you, because they never do that. They allow the evil and welcome it into their temple because they want the easy wide gate that's easy with least amount of tribulation possible. No tribulation. No tribulation. Rapture's going to free us from the tribulation. It is through much tribulations. It is through many tribulations, plural, that we must enter the kingdom of Elohim. And Messiah says, you will have tribulation in this world, but don't fear, don't worry, because he'll be with you. But the tribulation will be there, and it's going to get worse, just like a woman in labor. It's going to be worse and worse, but the more power he gives us, the more we can handle. But it is getting greater. It's increasing. It's just that we have to be given more to handle more. It's always going to be increasing for a believer. Who would choose this way? The Father will make it come true, like he has for all his people. It's always been true, but first naturally and then spiritually in Messiah. We went back to the beginning of the creation, as it was so in the beginning, that there was no Jew, no male, no female, no Jew, no Greek, no Hebrew, no this, no that. That's how it was in the beginning. And the Sabbath, 6 days the Father worked and he rested on the seventh, is for man. No Jew, no Greek, it's for man, all of him. And it existed since the first creation week, since the first Sabbath rest. We don't have to read Sabbath. We don't read it on purpose by the Father in Genesis. If someone says it didn't exist because we don't read that word in Genesis, this is faulty and evil tactic and reasoning and zero proof. We also don't read don't murder. We don't read don't steal. We also don't read do not commit adultery in Genesis. We don't read basically everything you read everywhere else concerning the law and the kingdom, the carnal kingdom, Jerusalem. That we don't read these things, so much of it on purpose, because it's the Father just telling us what to do, and that's how we keep his commandments. First the natural, then the spiritual. First walking with him the natural way, hearing his voice. Outwardly is what the correction is only, not inwardly. It was not so until Messiah. But in the beginning, it was just walking with the Creator. It wasn't under the law. It wasn't trying to keep the law specifically. It's just obey his voice. And then the law brings out so many things. It shows what sin is. Of course, we have to get the understanding with everything. It shows that man's a sinner and increases the sin. It was put in so that it shows increased sin. How the Father's doing all these things all at the same time is a giant, massive miracle that should be impossible, and yet it's not with him. So many things working out. It's so deep and connected. It's like the only mechanical, literal picture I could come up with that seems to be a good one, and there's more, is like a complicated gear system with many different gears and working pathways, where if you pull out one thing, it ruins like everything around it. That's how connected and perfect it is. The one thing works out this, and because that thing works out this, it creates a pathway that opens up the door for this working that, and that thing works out three different things, and it branches out and works out that. And if you pull out one thing, it breaks everything. That's how tightly knit his truth and word is. It will be noticed and create a ripple effect spiritually and destroy everything around it, and will not work without that one important piece. Every truth is important, all of it, from the greatest to the least. Now there is discernment on if it's something lesser, we put it in its place, than something greater. This is right, this is righteous, this is good. It's not trashing it, it's just that putting it in its place. But when somebody says something's not important because they've been exposed, they're not doing the real thing. They only did the image of it. All of a sudden, when they're exposed for their lie, now they're going to say it's not about this, it's not that important, it's not about this, it's not important. But before they were exposed, they were acting as if it was God. It was that important and commanding people to believe and do so. As soon as they're exposed, oh, it's not that important, it's not a big deal. I've seen this many times, and and it's happened. Of course, I've done that same thing, but now don't want to do that anymore. It's stupid, it's evil, it's wicked, it's blind, it's prideful, it's selfish, it's partial, it's a murderer, it's a thief, it's a robber, it's envious, it's not trusting the Creator, it's not loving Him, it's not keeping, you shall have no other idols. Self could be an idol, let alone anything else. Our own self and worshiping ourself and image is an idol in itself. Anything that replaces the true worship towards the Creator is an idol. Anything. It could be a soda bottle. It doesn't matter. If the heart is doing that idolatry, that heart sin is real, and the wages of sin is death. A spiritual death. And the world cannot understand His word. It just attacks it. That's all it can do. It says, should I be stoned to death for breaking the Sabbath? Right, because they don't understand. They're not learning what it means and can't see what it means in spirit, what it's actually meaning for us today. Without rest in Him and entering His rest, it's a death. Those words are true today still. It's a spiritual death to be working our own works and not resting from our works, our prideful, self-righteous works, doing our own things, trying our own ways. That's a death. First the natural, then the spiritual. And so in the beginning, there's no male, female, Jew, or Gentile. That's how it was in the beginning, so we go back to the beginning. And after that age, the kingdom came. Then Messiah came, which we went back to the beginning. And after this age, the kingdom comes. It's a circle. The mystery of the three major ages is a circle. That's what I've been given to see. The kingdom has come. The kingdom is here for those that believe, and yet it's coming still. That's the truth. Both are true. It's all one. One thing is just as true as the other. And when someone tries to split between two things and say which one, they're not understanding. And that's a carnal thing that carnal man does constantly, because he's not seeing what he needs to see. That's what he can't see between two things. That's the sin. That's all the sin, the knowledge of the good of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and not discerning between good and evil. It's just one thing, the mixed thing. And you pick one thing or the other, when so often the answer in his word is it's both things are true. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. I have a footnote here saying the critical text does not have without a cause. Well, that's a pretty big deal. It breaks what Messiah is saying if we remove without a cause. And plus, we read that in Scripture. We read that in the Old Testament prophecy. They hated me without a cause. It should be there. But this vile text removes it. So then it would only say, but I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger of the judgment. That's a spiritual wickedness right there. That's a contradiction in reality. Whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger of the judgment. Really? So anytime someone's angry with his brother for any reason, you're in danger of that strong judgment? It's broken. It's a contradiction. It's a lie for anyone that can see it. That without a cause must be there. It is there. It should be there. And that new vile critical text removes it. It's not in their New Testament text. This is a case where it changes the spiritual meaning and butchers it and contradicts it. So when the apostle got angry at Peter for playing the hypocrite with Jews and Gentiles, he was doing one thing with the Jews, but when the Gentiles showed up, he started acting differently. And the apostle corrects him. You bet he got angry. Not with the murderous hatred, but he got angry. You don't go like this to a brother that's doing a massive blind hypocrisy. Hey, why are you playing the hypocrite? You do something different with the Gentiles than the Jews. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just saying, though. It's a huge deal. And someone's supposed to correct those inside that belief and not watch them perish, not watch them get caught up in sin and blind and darkness. It's supposed to be corrected with the true love, the true right way, without hypocrisy and wickedness. This is not being angry at your brother, and that's in danger of this judgment. So anybody that's angry a little bit with his brother at any time about anything is in danger of this real strong judgment? No. Angry without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Massive difference. Huge difference. There's nothing. It's it's all the difference, literally. This Messiah didn't teach that a little bit of anger. So what if it's righteous anger? What if it's justified? What if someone needs corrected? Like Peter was corrected. So the apostles in danger of the judgment? Yeah, they don't want you to judge the righteous way, because God says, don't judge me, don't judge me, don't judge me. And then they can read about judges, even a book that we have that says judges, and they say, don't judge me. No one's supposed to be doing any judging at all at any time, says God, man, the delusion. It's the wicked judgment and carnal judgment we're not supposed to do. But there is a time and place for real righteous judgment all the time. And discerning between good and evil is judging between good and evil. It's what judges do. And someone says, I am not a servant. I'm not a prophet. They just revealed who they are. It's astonishing. I just heard it recently. I am not this, I am not that. And I'm definitely not. I'm not a prophet. It's not about calling yourself some word in pride. But now I want to read something. in Revelation. Not that this is the only place in there. I guess we see that word servant. The revelation of Yehoshua, Messiah, which Elohim gave to show his servants the things which must shortly take place. Yes, these are the things that have to take place in our life for every believer. The things of revelation. I have a few things against you because you allow that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit sexual immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols. They don't know what this means. They're doing it constantly, sacrificing to idols. But because they don't see what it means in spirit, they don't do it. They don't commit sexual immorality because nobody saw them when they did that literally. Or if they're not doing that literal adultery, they can't see what it means spiritually, therefore they don't do this. In the days of the sounding of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, the mystery of Elohim would be finished, as he declared to his servants, the prophets. These are all those that believe in Messiah. How can someone deny this in Revelation? His servants, the prophets. And any true believer is also a prophet. And that the time you should reward your servants, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your names, small and great. So we read that his people are servants and prophets and saints. They're also called judges. They're also called this. They're also called that. When someone goes, what is that confusion? Well, it's going to come up with the way to justify whatever it does. That's a guarantee when it's a lie and sin. It tells everyone that they're not a prophet. Well, they're not a servant either, because to be a servant is to be a prophet, is to be a judge, is to be a saint, is to be all these things. Messiah is a prophet. He was a prophet, a servant, a saint, a believer, a judge, a king, king of kings. He's all these things that we're supposed to become. And some more or less in different gifts is the understanding, but we're supposed to become all these things. The harlot who corrupted the earth with her fornication, and he has avenged on her the blood of his servants shed by her. This is the harlot, the church world. That's always been carnal Jerusalem, religion. 1,500 years of Israel. What that is back then today is the harlot. Voice came from the throne saying, praise our Elohim, all you his servants, and those who fear him, both small and great. See that you do not do that, because someone fell to worship at his feet. But he said to me, see that you do not do that. I am your fellow servant and of your brethren who have the testimony of Yehoshua. Worship Elohim, for the testimony of Yehoshua is the spirit of prophecy. So what else is the testimony of Messiah? The spirit of prophecy. How could someone say they're not a prophet to all his people out in the open, all his servants and people that follow them, and even chuckle a little bit when they say they're not a prophet at all? Okay, they don't even realize how they give themselves away for who they are. They don't even realize how. Then he said to me, these words are faithful and true. And Yehovah Elohim of the holy prophets, sent his angel to show his servants the things which must shortly take place. Towards the end of Revelation, we read what's near the beginning. Interestingly enough, the beginning and end becoming one and together to show the things which must take place. The beginning and the end, we're reminded about that in Revelation, not what the world thinks it means. I am your fellow servant and of your brethren, the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this book, worship Elohim. Amazing. Keep the words of this book. It's for us today to keep whatever it means and learn what it means and do it. Do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. What else was at hand? When Messiah taught first, the kingdom of heaven is at hand for anyone who believes. It's still at hand. And these words and this prophecy is at hand, for whatever it means is at hand for a believer that believes. They enter the kingdom through belief. And Revelation is for us, as all his word is. Do not seal the words. They're for those who believe, but before it was sealed to all, including the old covenant saints and believers. That's why we read the book of Daniel is sealed. Seal this book for the end, and the end is the whole entire last days period. That's what's called the last days. The end is this whole age. The new covenant age in Messiah is also the last days, all of it. And there's an end of this age, and a beginning, and a middle. But now it's unsealed, in that those that don't believe, it's still sealed to them, but it's unsealed. Don't seal this book, because those who believe, it's being revealed. Unveiling of Messiah, unsealed to those that believe only. But it was sealed to those who believed back then, before Messiah. Was sealed to everyone. All these spiritual things and things of the heart was not getting inside people. The revelation was sealed. And it's still sealed to those that don't believe today. But it's being revealed for, well, like we just read, your brethren, the prophets, of those who keep the words of this book. Worship Elohim. Do not seal the words of the prophecy of this. The time is at hand. He who is unjust, let him be unjust still. He who is filthy, let him be filthy still. He who is righteous, let him be righteous still. He who is holy, let him be holy still. It's offensive what this means. And it's contradicting what the letters without understanding. It's absolute truth, because there's an understanding to how to see what this means. It's powerful. It's powerful. It has to be given. No amount of words will do it. Justice can't give the understanding just by saying words. Father must give the understanding through the true Messiah, the true teacher. It's understanding who man is and what he is, what he can and can't do, learning these things. Those that don't believe, they must be unjust still. And it's like, yes, say the command. Whoever's filthy, let them be filthy still. It must be so, because of the Creator's word and power being true. So let it be done then. And that's what prophecy says anyways. We're not going to go against his word. Many won't believe. We're not going against that. The church world goes against it every day, because it puts debt on the world, all of it, to believe and join its religion, which is denying many called, few chosen. They're trying to do what can't be done. So it's a strong judgment, and they're being shot backwards by the Creator. It's trying to stretch a rubber band. It's shooting them back. Can't be done. They want to convert everyone to their religion and put it on everyone that if they don't believe, they'll burn in fire, literal fire in the future someday. The street preachers that are doing that are in the Gehenna they speak of for the future. They're in it right now. It's why they're doing what they're doing. Who can hear these words? It's the truth. Only people in heavy destruction get a sign and a megaphone and start teaching people the greatest blasphemy that there is, that the Creator tortures people forever in the future. wipes away all judgment and says it's for some future, and destroys whatever judgments are meaning that we need to learn today. They don't believe in the judgments. Have they ever read over and over again? We read about how the many called of Israel, supposed to be of the people of the Father in the kingdom. There's always been many called and few chosen concerning Jerusalem. Those outside of Jerusalem are unbelievers, and it's just a given. They're the world that don't believe. They're not of him. But there's many called within Jerusalem that don't believe, and it's always been so, even to this day now, where they claim they're of Jerusalem by saying they're believers. They're the many called that are thrust out of the kingdom because nothing filthy is allowed to enter for real. Messiah's cleansing the threshing floor. He's been doing that. He continues to do so till the end. Not allowing anything unclean. The tree of the life, the way of the tree of life is guarded by the sword. Death is required. Cutting up of the flesh and denial of self is required. The beast needs to die. Behold, I am coming quickly. My reward is with me to give to everyone according to his work. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Right? And someone's going to use this to try to prove Messiah is God, man, the creator, because he says, I'm the first and the last. They don't know what it means. Therefore, they hide what it means, which is the only valuable thing, an important thing, critical. They hide what it means, which is a great evil, and put a lie on top of it and say that's the truth. This is how false prophets destroy all truth. They have the carnal lie replacing the truth and saying that's what it means. And therefore they destroy whatever it really means and suppress it from people to never even ask. They don't even ask. He's the first and the last, the beginning and the end. This can't be seen without it being given, what it truly means. Has nothing to do with Messiah being the creator, with being born secretly before Adam was created. Messiah already was literally so. Nothing to do with that. Because they don't know what it means, they attack the truth, suppress it, and make fun of the truth. When they hear it, they can't hear the words. When we try to explain what it means, they mock it because they can't hear. Just like Messiah says, you can't hear my words. Why can't you hear my words? Because you're of your father, the devil. And there's no truth in him. There's no truth in an unbeliever. None. Doesn't matter if they say the grass is green and it's green. When we read no truth in him, it doesn't mean that truth is calling the grass green, literally. It doesn't mean that. There's no real truth in someone that's not of the Father. They have nothing. The carnal beast, they are what they are, and no beast is righteous. They have no truth. We have no truth from our own selves. Train horn. And it's always been so, and it will be even for a believer. It's still true that of us of ourself has no truth. And yet we receive truth from above. While it's true that us of our own self still is not of any truth. But we acknowledge that, and then we get truth from him. Someone that can't see or acknowledge in the heart that they are not wise and have zero righteousness and truth in themselves, from themselves, zero, none, then they won't receive the good things. It will be counted according to someone's words. You say you're righteous, I didn't come to heal the righteous. What's the world do with the 99 sheep and the one that needs saving? The 99 are the righteous, so-called, that don't need any right healing in their own mind. And they're dead, they need healing. But they're the 99, the many called, the many of the world, 99, majority. It's amazing how they flip it around, because the majority is a bunch of believers and the world is good and we're converting the whole world. The 99 to them are of the truth when they're actually the ones that are dead, sinners still, in unbelief. They're the 99, the many. The 99 and many are always those that are unrighteous and don't believe. But one sheep is lost, meaning it's lost for real. It's seeing and acknowledging that it's lost. They're all lost, the 99 and the one. It's a parable, and it cannot be understood unless it's given. And the authority comes from above on what it means, from the Father and not from self. The 99 are lost too, even though we read that they don't need any saving, that they're not lost. They're lost in reality. In this parable, though, it's teaching to see in spirit and acknowledge in spirit that someone's lost, and they acknowledge they're lost. That reality of acknowledgement is representing the lost sheep. It's lost now because it acknowledges it's lost. He came to heal the lost, the sick, the brokenhearted, the dead. He didn't come to heal the righteous now. They're righteous. They're good. They're doing good. They have no sin. They're no problem. They're a good person. Those are the 99, the most of the world, the many. And lining up with the many called and few chosen also. With the one lost one, he heals because he says, I'm blind. I'm sick. I'm dead. I can't walk, can't see, spiritually, to heal the sick. If the Father can heal us spiritually and remove plagues spiritually, that is the heavenly thing. That is the greater thing that requires real power from above. He could do anything lesser because it is lesser. The heavenly things are the greater things. 22:14, Revelation. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. But outside are the dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves and practices a lie. Well, that's what's going on if they're not of the Father. All those things and more. And notice how we read, outside are the dogs, because his word teaches that. But it never meant what the carnal mind thinks it means, where in self-righteousness and pride someone goes, those are the Gentiles, those are the dogs, the scum that didn't join my religion, and we're way better than them. Through wickedness and pride their heart is. That's how they understand the Gentiles being dogs. But what it always meant, they didn't see, and they don't see today. But what this means is actually good. It's true. This is the real meaning for us, for the kingdom of heaven. Outside are the dogs. They're spiritual dogs. They're the unbelievers. Whether they're what color or race, none of that matters. But the heart, it's a dog. These are the dogs, the sorcerers. And there's a way to see this truth and not think we're better than someone, and not saying that out of pride, but out of understanding for what it really means. He gets us to do the impossible. And because the carnal man never does good things, they will, when they hear your similar words, they'll count it for wicked every time and say that's what you're doing, what I'm doing. Of course, when they do it, it's not sin. Only when you do it, it's sin. They'll say you're evil. It's prideful. When they say the same words, it's never evil and prideful, though, for themselves, is it? Never. I, Yehoshua, have sent my angel to testify to you these things in the gatherings, or the body, the churches, the ecclesia, the gathering, the assemblies. I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. It's Messiah line. I think I also have a verse in the description for the enemies being of your own household, that of your own household. But I think there's also that he had brothers. I think I read recently he had sisters too. I believe Messiah had brothers and sisters. I think this verse is only saying brothers in that one area, but I'm pretty sure I read sisters too. Yes. Messiah has brothers and sisters. How strange. How strange. Yeah, the truth is truly stranger than fiction. We don't read legal brothers, step brothers, or whatever you people add to his word. Those who add to his word, that's adding to his word. They're in death, and the tree of life is taken from them now. And the lamp of the wicked is being snuffed out now. It's already happening in real time, because his judgments are in real time. He's right here, the creator, in his creation. He's right with those that believe in him. The Father and the Lamb are the temple right now. This is the truth, not some synagogue of Satan, some physical temple with the physical Bible inside the temple, which is what we're supposed to be becoming. We are the temple, and his word is getting in us, eating his word. And what that means spiritually. Obviously, if we don't understand what that means and just do what the letter says, we'll start eating our Bibles and eating the leather and paper or bonded leather or hardcover, just start eating Bibles. Start eating his word and saying, now I'm doing his word because I eat his word. Yeah, that's what happens with the doctrine of hell. When they don't understand anything at all, they end up with the doctrine of demons. The Father just did this perfect thing where the natural is wicked so often, but the spiritual is the only good and righteous thing and meaning. They don't understand his judgment, fire, or any of what it means. They can't see. Therefore, they just read the letters and it kills, and they end up with the doctrine of demons. How come they pick and choose partial with everything? They're wicked. How come they don't eat their Bibles? It says, eat your word. John, to eat his word. And it's like honey in the mouth and then bitter in the stomach. Are they shooting rockets out of the tails of the helicopters and destroying all the green grass? How come they're not doing all these other things? Are they cutting off their fingers and their hands and plucking out their eyeballs? No, they don't tell you to do that, do they? Hush, hush, says the devil. But when it comes to Messiah speaking some truth on judgment, all of a sudden it's as literal as it gets according to the letter, and that's the understanding. How come they're not consistent and partial with this everywhere? He said fire. Well, yes, the Creator also says that you shall stone someone to death for such and such. How come they're not doing that? And how do they know when this is true or that's true, and what this is or what's that is? And how do they know when that applies and doesn't apply? They don't. They're just partial. They just choose their own thing. It's just a delusion. It's wrong judgment for not obeying the Creator's voice and wanting to do his will. That is the great sin. That is all sin. It's rebellion, as in the rebellion that want to go their own way, and they perish along the way. They're dying right now, and it's going to be worse next week and next month and next year for them than it was today, spiritually speaking, within their soul, their life. And the believer should be increasing in life through the difficulties and ups and downs, but always growing and increasing is the true way. Becoming bigger trees, planted firm. So they pick and choose and are partial with his word. They're partial with the law. They're partial with everything. They don't have an understanding or reasoning or explanation for any of it. They just choose to say something is figurative whenever they want to and not figurative whenever they want to. Nope. Hell, this is literal. It's what we read, but right next to it, they're not doing what it says. And it's Messiah's words right next to it. And then they say, well, it's like figurative or symbolic or spiritual. They only do that because they have no answer and don't know. They just want whatever they already have to be true. And then they'll just say it's spiritual to do away with something. That's how they use that word. They don't know what spiritual is or what it means. They only say that to get away with what they're doing, their wickedness in their own mind. Just do away with something by calling it spiritual, just some invisible thing. Well, where did they learn? Who taught them that one thing is spiritual and the other is literal? How would they know? How come they do this with his word everywhere? What about baptism? Is that spiritual or literal? Well, it's whatever someone chooses and believes already. They'll just say it's spiritual when they need to do away with it, or they'll say, no, it's literal because that's what they already did and believe and understand. Don't they understand that water can't cleanse us within? It only cleanses the flesh outwardly and can't touch the heart. Someone that's been baptized with the Spirit and fire has received the true baptism and needs to continue to be receiving the baptism and fire and cleansing of his Spirit, burning out the wicked in us. That is the true baptism. The other one points towards the true. It cleanses as a picture, water cleansing. Pick one. The one is the true and one is not, because it's not able to do the real thing. So how is that the true one? We read there's only one baptism, one faith, one Messiah, one Creator. That's why we read that in there. One baptism. Is there two or one? Is the apostle lying? Well, even the water baptism is one, in that what it means is one with the baptism of Spirit. The cleansing is within, and it's one with being baptized in Spirit. But the literal baptism can't do the real thing by itself. So they'll just say it's spiritual when they need to and do evil with this, or say it's literal when they need to. They just pick and choose instead of actually getting understanding for the truth on whatever it is from above. It is interesting that Messiah got baptized after 30 years of being, filled with the Father's Spirit and learning and growing. It's kind of an interesting thing. It's like this could be good after someone's been perfected. But people think they get water baptized instantly, and now they're saved. Now they're what they need to be. And it's perfectly the backwards opposite. They're nothing yet. And if they believe that's what saved them, then they're not being saved. They're just doing what the Israelites did, and in a delusion, saying that their God saved them from Egypt, from bondage and sin and death. And that hit me recently about this, seeing more on this, how strong that is. That's what they're doing, And I've been having that question in my mind in the past. How is it that it's masquerading so well? Everyone claims to believe. They claim that they're saved. They're claiming that they're saved and from sin and death, and they're saved. And then it hit me. Father just showed me more on it. That's what they always did. There's peace in this place, they say. They've always been saying they're saved from Egypt, from sin, the many called, when they're in delusion and death while saying it. The Israelites are in literal delusion while they're proclaiming they're saved coming out of Egypt, that their God did this to them that can't walk, see, or hear. The God they created spiritually, their golden calf, the Trinity, can't spiritually walk, see, or hear, or heal them, can't do anything. It's amazing. In its bondage and hard labor, this world does not care about anybody, doesn't care about you or me. It expects everything from you. And if you go less than 0.01% less than its expectations, you're wicked. And it just says, you should have done this anyways. You should have been 10,000% anyways. So if someone does something carnally good, they'll just raise the bar because it's God. No, that's what you should have done anyways. You should have been 10,000%. Then it can stomp on the person and just trash it. So if someone is doing extra or good or whatever, this world does this all the time. It's doing it in its heart. If it needs to try to catch a sin on you, it raises the bar of holiness to 10,000%. perfection beyond perfection, so that it can try to find 0.0001% splinter on you and then say you're wicked because you're 9,875% righteous. So blind and evil. So desperately wicked to find sin on someone because it's full of sin itself. So evil. Man's heart is beyond curable. It's desperately wicked and wayward and diseased. It just needs to die and be removed completely and die to who and what he is. No one can see him and live. It needs to die. It cannot worship him. It cannot choose him. It can do no good till that mercy comes and dies to the old man. And then someone can see him because they died to the old man in Messiah so that they can live and see him. If we die with him, then we live with him, and then to see him. That's the only way, death in Messiah. This is being born again from above, receiving his spirit, the gift of faith, is being born again, is the kingdom of heaven, is all these things are one. And the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him who hears say, come. No, not those that don't hear and don't need any healing in this age. The many called, they don't need any healing. There's nothing to come to because they're not sinners in their heart. And the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him who hears say, come. Let him who thirsts come. Right, those that are thirsty, meaning they're acknowledging they're thirsty. Everyone is. Doesn't the natural even teach this? Everyone gets thirsty if they don't drink. Everyone. But they say they're not thirsty. They're filled in their own mind and heart. They're righteous. They're the 99 that are not lost in their own mind. Once again, whoever thirsts, whoever says and acknowledges that with their heart are the ones who thirst. Let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. Powerful words, for I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to these things, this is a judgment. Elohim will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Elohim shall take away his part from the book of life, from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. Now, that's why we're reading that. He who testifies to these things says, surely I am coming quickly. Amen. Even so, Master Yehoshua, the grace of our Master Yehoshua, Messiah, be with you all. Amen. That's the end. Revelation 22:22, which adds up to 4, which is life. And that's the end. Well, that might be it. All right, that's all I was just reading. We'll see if anything came to mind. Please take care, seek truth from above.